Welcome back. South Africa, or rather South African football, is still mourning following the brutal murder of Kaizer Chiefs player Luke Fleurs last week. Fleurs was gunned down in a hijacking incident in Johannesburg at the age of just 24. Before Fleurs was a big star with the big teams, his skill was honed at Ubuntu Football Academy in Cape Town. My colleague Benjamin Leshoro spoke to the academy's co-founder, Cassie Prince, as well as one of his closest friends, Jesse Donn, to find out who he was away from the cameras.
Cassie Prince, thank you so much for your time, the co-founder and executive director at Ubuntu Football Club. And this is the club that Luke Fleurs, who unfortunately is late as we speak, played for in his younger days, in his earlier days, pursuing a career in football. Thank you so much for your time, Casey. How are you? First of all, let's start there, having heard the news, the tragic news of Luke Fleurs' death.
I was a pretty open wound for like the first 36 hours or so. I certainly grieved it hard after getting the call from his dad on Wednesday night. And so I think I've grieved it hard. And now, really trying to put my energy towards, continuing to support our graduates, the guys who grew up with Luke in the program, and giving them space to talk and process and deal with their emotions and their pain. And but I think we're trying to get on with it, and now just trying to also support the family and helping them make decisions and make arrangements about the things they want to do.
When you speak of the guys that grew up with Luke at the club, you are sort of Luke's parents and the teammates there, his siblings. It must be a bitter pill to swallow. I mean, for other people, it's Luke, the footballer. For you guys, it's Luke, the brother, the son.
Yeah, I mean, Luke came to us at 12 years old, and Ubuntu isn't like a normal football club. We're a fully residential, or at least for those who need it, educational institution that's really focusing on the holistic development of people. And when he started in 2013, we were a much smaller organization, so it was very tight-knit, and one of our core values is family. And so we really do try to operate in that way, that, these are my sons and these are your brothers. And so, but especially in those early days when everything is pioneering, then the relationships are just really intense and really special. And so, for those boys, there were 2 age groups just above him, and then all the subsequent ones below him. So like our current matrics were the last kids who lived in residence with Luke when he was actually a professional player, still living in our boarding house, but living with these little grade 6s who, are now in matric. So it's a deep thing for guys to deal with. But Luke was like the first to do everything. So he was in a lot of ways the big role model, certainly for kids who came after him. But everyone just loved Luke. I think that's the really special thing about him, is that the guys older than him loved him intensely, and the guys younger, not only just looked up to him, but just really, really loved him. And so, he was just a really special human in that way, in the way he captivated people and brought people around him with his humor, with his laugh, with his funny high-pitched voice, with his cheeky smile, and all those things. Just unique parts of Luke that drew people in.
You say he came to you guys at 12 years old. What traits did he have to say, look, this is a future youth international, as he played for South Africa in the junior age groups, former under 23 international, former under 20 international, and under coaches David Notwane and Thabo Seno. But did he show as early as then when he came through?
I mean, I think we were such a young organization that we probably didn't know what a junior international looked like. And it's hard to predict that at 12 years old, right? Like, you're just looking at sort of a group of skills and a physical profile that might become something. So we saw him play in like a board team for Mitchell's Plain, and had some conversations. He came to trials, and him and really 2 other kids from Mitchell's Plain joined us that year in 2013. And but he just I think personality always stood out, but he was really comfortable on the ball. He really came to us as like a wing. He played center forward. He just slowly moved back, and it was probably late in his under 15 season that I finally decided, I think you're a center back. Let's try it. And and I wrote about in a post I made is that all along Luke just trusted me. We had like a really close relationship because he would just ask questions. Like he would ask the questions that most kids won't ask, but he was also very perceptive. So he would ask really, really unique questions. But even in that process of saying, I think you're a center back, let's try it. He was like, okay. But he had the self-confidence to know like, well, yeah, I'm a good footballer, period. And wherever you put me, I think I can be successful. And so it turned out to be the right choice. And it was really only a few months later that he was getting called up to the under 17 team for the first time. And, and that was our first to make an under 17 team. And, since then, I think we're up to like 25, 26 kids who've played in junior national teams, but he will always be the first. And so even we have a kid leaving tomorrow, for the under 17 camp and trip, who's a center back. And we say like, you've got big shoes to fill now. Luke paved the way for you to now go as a center back into this team and to do well. So yeah, I think he just looked like a good footballer, and generally wanted to work hard. And so we trust that if we put good footballers in the right environment, which we think we've created, that their best is going to come out. And sometimes their best is a national teamer, and sometimes it's just a good player.
What sort of background does he have? You spoke of working along with his parents at the moment to prepare for everything, to support them wherever that's needed. But where's Luke from in terms of family?
Yeah, so Luke grew up in a part of Mitchell's Plain called Westridge, and he has a really tight-knit family, an older brother, an older sister, and parents that are really engaged in his life and have been. But if you're growing up in Mitchell's Plain, you're generally growing up in a difficult environment where there's a lot of distractions and other things, sort of pulling you. So thankfully for Luke, in our environment, he lived in residence, so he was a weekly boarder. He was with us all the time, but it didn't mean he was, devoid of temptations and things that could sort of distract him. And so that was part of his journey. He was figuring out who he wanted to be and the things he did and didn't want to fall into, and the ways he wanted to be different. And Luke didn't always make great choices. In our organization, there's a lot of grace because we believe that working with young men is a long-term process, and sometimes they're going to make bad choices, and we've got to have the grace to see them through that if they want to be different. And I think that was the thing, is it always felt like Luke wanted to be different. Even when he was making bad choices, it was like, no, I don't want to be that. I want to be different. And so, it's been amazing, the support. He always had great support of his family. They've always been 100% his biggest cheerleader. And and so now we are trying to be their big cheerleaders because they definitely need us in their corner.
I know he left you guys and came up to the Highveld and joined SuperSport United at the time, and then late last year was signed by Kaizer Chiefs. And it's just unfortunate that the Chiefs fans hadn't really seen Luke, but some of us, the football lovers that followed the game for a while, we've seen him in the national teams, we've seen him at SuperSport. What a talent to be taken away at 24. He's a child still.
No, it's obviously tragic, and I wish the Chiefs fans had gotten to really enjoy him, and because I think they would have loved the way he plays. I think it would have actually he would have fit the general style better than even where he'd been at SuperSport. I think the things that we really tried to create in him as a player, I think would have fit. Like, he's really great on the ball, can use his right and left foot, has great passing range, and he's just super calm. Like nothing really bothers Luke. Like I've kind of joked that he didn't really ever take anything too seriously. But I think as a player, you know, he looked forward to that, you know, playing in front of these huge Chiefs crowds, and I think he could have handled it because he never seemed to be bothered by circumstances that much. You know, like even being thrown into his first professional game at 17 by us in the NFD, like it was like.
And we continue with the tribute still coming through for the late Luke Fleurs. Can you believe it? That is how we refer to Luke Fleurs today, having tragically died last week here in Johannesburg after an incident of criminality, really, and those that really should be put behind bars for a very, very long time. So we spoke to the executive director of Ubuntu Football, and we paid tribute to Luke, and we continue with one of his close friends, Jesse Donn, who for many, many years was his teammate, was his roommate, and was just his mate overall. Jesse, thank you so much for your time. It could not have been easy. It can't have been easy the past few days. How are you? How are you holding up?
I'm doing okay. If I'm honest, I've been blessed that up until now I haven't had to deal with many deaths in the family or tragedies like this. So this is probably the first big one that I've had to deal with. And it's been a bit of a roller coaster. I'm learning that grief and trauma comes and goes and learning how to deal with that. But obviously I'm heartbroken in the in-between of heartbroken for the loss of Luke, but also ecstatic and celebrating the life that he had. So, yeah, but I'm hanging in there.
Yeah, he had an incredibly short life, Jesse, and you shared the short period that he was around. You shared a large part of that with him. Mm. Just take us through how long you've known Luke and how and when you became friends.
Yeah, so I'm privileged to have known Luke for 12 years, so half of his life. I actually first met Luke when we were playing against each other. So the local football associations would select like their best 11s from the different communities, and naturally because me and Luke were in different communities, we were on different teams. So the first time I played against Luke, he was actually a striker back then. Was the first time I came into contact with him, put it that way, was as an opponent, not as a teammate.
And you gave him a tough time.
Exactly. I mean, yeah. I mean, I tried as much as I could. He was very talented from a young age already. And not long after that, our relationship sort of changed from trying to tackle him and trying to give him a tough time to actually being the one giving him the ball. So probably not even less than a year later, after having played against him, the academy I played for that you mentioned, Ubuntu Football Academy, noticed his talent and scouted him. And so instead of trying to tackle him, now I was trying to pass him the ball and get him to score goals. And then, yeah, throughout our careers, throughout life, really, it's been me and Luke often, the two of us. We played, or part of the first graduates of the Ubuntu program to play in the senior team in the NFD. He was my roommate when we traveled then. He moved to Super Sports, and shortly afterwards I followed him, and we ended up staying and living together for 3 years. We had gone to Croatia together and spent time there. We both got our first Bafana experiences at the same time, so we went to Bafana together. So I really was privileged to have walked many different journeys and through different seasons of life with Luke. And what I can testify to today is that he was the same person through it all. That same Luke that had the infectious smile and this indescribable laugh, like only Luke could laugh, was the same person, same person back then when he just signed for the Ubuntu Academy, and the same person last week Wednesday when he passed away. So that's just the kind of person he was. I have so many special memories throughout the years. I could talk all day, but yeah, he was such a special guy, and I think more so than mourning the loss of a footballer, I think we're mourning the loss of a friend, a genuinely good guy who was joy to everyone who met him.
And I mean, when you've met someone from that age, you not only become their friend, you sort of become like a brother, like a sibling, and you would have met Luke's parents on many an occasion, and you know them. Have you had an opportunity to chat to them, to hear how mom is feeling, how dad is feeling?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, when you meet someone that young, naturally you also get introduced to the parents, and your parents know their parents. And so on that night, a big part of my sort of mission was to go and find out the truth of the situation so that I could convey it to the family. I definitely wasn't the first person at the hospital. I stay a bit of a distance away from where the incident happened, and there were other people that did let Uncle Theo and Auntie Simone know. But I also had heard that they were in disbelief, as I would be as well. And so when I went to the hospital, my biggest mission, my biggest objective was to try and find out exactly what had happened so that I could let them know, because I can only imagine being on the other side of the country and hearing that this is what's happened to your son and hearing all sorts of news. So that just speaks to the relationship that we've had. The day after it happened, they ended up coming to Joburg, and me and my wife went to go visit them and pay our respects. And, it was amazing. The day afterwards was probably the most tearful day for me, but going to see their family and see how at peace they are with the situation, how much trust they had in God's plan, that this was His timing, and that they really wanted to celebrate Luke's life. They were already at that stage wanting to remember the good of Luke instead of focusing on all the negative tragedy that had happened in the day before. So yeah, and even in the day since then, they've been amazing. They have uttered many times that they are not looking for vengeance or revenge, but they just want justice for their son. Even speaking to the parents and seeing that they would like to go to the courts in order to see the proceedings for the 6 men that have been potentially prosecuted in relation to this case. And hearing his mom say that's not because she wants to see them, it's because she wants to tell them that she forgives them. And so seeing their strength in this time has been a massive encouragement to me. So the relationship behind knowing Luke and his family has also played a big role in helping all of us heal.
And it's amazing to me, Jesse, when you say the parents are not really blaming anything or not really saying this and that. They just believing that, look, God's timing, God's plan, and we celebrate Luke and move on. That takes a lot. It takes a lot for someone to have that much belief in fate, to a point that having lost a child, they still believe that it was his time. When we spoke to Casey Prince, the executive director and co-founder of Ubuntu Football Academy, he mentioned that the last time he saw Luke physically was at your wedding. I believe that was in December.
October, so slightly before December, October, end of October.
Yeah. Tell us about Luke there. Did he have anything to say to you at your wedding that you might remember for some time?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I think on any wedding day, unfortunately, due to the busyness and everything that's happening, you don't really get to intimately connect with everybody. So yeah. I definitely didn't manage to have any extended conversations with Luke, but I can clearly remember being extremely happy and grateful to see him there and have his support there. Obviously, he had made his move to Chiefs by then already, and so we were no longer living together and weren't seeing each other every day at training. And so I remember when I saw him there coming with he was wearing glasses. I still remember the outfit he was wearing. Looking very neat by Luke's standards was encouraging to me, and that was something I'll never forget. I remember if I can put it this way, my heart had a little leap of joy just to see that Luke was there and supporting us. And I think I don't think it was a coincidence that was the last time that many of the people who had come to know him in Cape Town especially and had also come up for the wedding got to see him there. I don't know if there was a reason why he did make sure that he was there. I mean, obviously he wanted to support me, but it would have been very easy for him to say, look, I can't make it, or this is happening, that's happening, because, you know, our football schedules often don't allow us to be at social events. So the fact that he was there, I think was really great for a lot of the people who hadn't necessarily been able to connect with Luke. I remember when I did embrace him quickly to say hello to him, just him saying and mentioning how proud he was that I eventually was getting married, and that, yeah, he was, I guess growing up, we had always thought that he'd get married before me. And so seeing me get married before him was a bit of a change in events. So he mentioned that, and I can't remember many other things, but I just remember being super happy that he was there.
Yeah. And that was incidentally round about the time that he made his move to Kaizer Chiefs then. So a lot of things changed or between you guys. You mentioned that you're no longer living together, no longer teammates. Obviously you still had some chats on the phone, but you had an opportunity to speak at Luke's memorial service that was organized at the FNB Stadium. And as one of Luke's best and closest friends, it must have been a very difficult moment for you. I don't think at the age of 25 you would have thought that you would have to stand and talk about Luke as a late friend. Tell us about that moment when you stood up on the podium and spoke about your friend.
Yeah, I think Benji, you hit the nail on the head when you said at 25 I never imagined having to give that sort of speech. And I actually said in my tribute to Luke, you know, as part of the process of me grieving and working through this, I actually wrote Luke a letter of things that I wish that I would have told him, or could have told him while he was still alive. And one of it was that, you know what, Luke, I feel so unprepared for this, because although we had spoken about the future, we had made many jokes about what the future would look like, I never, ever assumed that this is what the future would look like. You know, I never assumed that I'd be preparing his memorial speech, you know, and it was very difficult. I think the idea that you can somehow honor someone and sum up someone's life in words is very difficult. You know, I made the analogy that trying to put Luke's life into words felt like trying to put fireworks into a matchbox. So it was extremely difficult. But through the process, I think it's been good for me. I made a note to really celebrate the person that he was, his keen excitement for every day, his big smile that really impacted people, his commitment to showing up unapologetically as himself every single day. So it definitely wasn't easy, and for a long period of time I was kind of at a loss for words, you know, had so much to say but felt like I had so few words to say it. But I'm really glad that I was able to give him a good send-off, and I hope that people will be able to learn a thing or two from his life.
Well, Jesse, we definitely have learned from the friendship that you and Luke shared, having seen you guys play together, having seen you guys grow in the game together as junior internationals representing South Africa, as senior internationals also called up into the senior national team. And unfortunately for Luke, the journey ends here. But the good thing is that you get to now carry him in your spirit and continue the journey for both you guys. Thank you so much for speaking to us on Newzroom Afrika today, and condolences to you, to SuperSport United, to Kaizer Chiefs, to the larger football family and Luke's biological family. Thank you so much for your time.